Welcome to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by thesoberclub.com. I'm Janey Grace. This is for you if you've quit the booze or you'd like to, or maybe you're just sober curious. I'll bring you tips and motivation without any judgment, and there'll be inspiration from experts, quit-lit authors, and sober heroes. Hi, and welcome to the podcast. I've had such a great week so far. It's been amazing doing some of these bookshop gigs and getting to meet some sober people, or some people who listen to the podcast. It's been really good fun. You might have seen some of the social media I did at the beginning of the week around that news article. Oh, honestly, it incenses me so much, that piece around red wine. Could red wine be protective against bowel cancer or some such? I mean, seriously, honestly, what are they thinking of? That's exactly the kind of article that would have kept me stuck for years and years. Well, it did. Those kind of things did. You know, a glass of red wine, good for the heart, all that BS. It's absolute BS. They say in the piece that they're talking about the resveratrol and the antioxidants, which, of course, with any kind of health issue, you know, with anything preventative, we need good antioxidants. We need a good variety of polyphenols and God knows what else in our diet. But to try to suggest that you're going to be getting, you know, the exact right amount of resveratrol because you're downing, you know, shed loads of wine it's just so unbelievably irresponsible. It makes me so cross. It really makes me cross. It's such BS. If you want the resveratrol, have grapes, have blueberries, you know, but don't go and down a ton of wine. I mean, I remember back in the day, the reason this makes me so cross is, of course, I fell for it. Of course I did. Back in the day, I was that person who used to read, you know, these articles and then go, oh, thank God, it's all okay then, you know, scientists have proven it. And then I go and down a bottle of Sauvignon. I mean, go figure. You know, I managed to miss out the bit that it was meant to be one small glass and red. But, you know, I don't buy that either. If you are unsure of what I'm saying, then please listen to the interview I did with Dr. Anya Topiwala. I very often mention that and reference it because, though I say so myself, it was a spectacular podcast, not because of me, because she was just fantastic. She is a psychiatrist. She really knows her stuff, and she left no stone unturned. She left no kind of, you know, you wouldn't be left thinking, oh, well, I don't know, maybe one glass would be good. No, she made it absolutely clear. Even one glass of any kind of alcohol, it's toxic. It's literally toxic. It's bad for you. Even one glass doesn't mean you're going to drop dead after one glass. I didn't say that, but life is better without any. Let's get that clear. And if you seriously want to something that's going to be protective, you know, against cancers and against illness, then eat well, eat a healthy diet, eat a really good range of decent fruit and veg and proteins and good fats, and avoid as much processed food as you can, and absolutely avoid poison. It's kind of common sense, really, isn't it? I was chatting to somebody in the week. I actually was a guest on a podcast, and we were talking yet again about how crazy it is that when we're, you know, most of us have got some kind of food that we can't eat, you know, or something that we're intolerant to or allergic to. For me, it's that hideous thing, corn, you know, QUORN. What the hell even is that? And I'm really allergic to it, really intolerant to it. So I really make it my business to check that it's not snook into any foods I might be eating. So if I go to a restaurant, particularly if it's a vegetarian restaurant or a buffet, I'll be really careful. I'll ask, you know, does this contain corn? And obviously, if it does, I don't eat it. I wouldn't dream of eating it. If it were snuck into something by accident, I'd be furious, right? Because I know that it makes me sick. And yet with alcohol, we do it night after night. The same thing. We repeat the same behavior and expect a different outcome. It's crazy. It's literally crazy. What do we do to ourselves? Anyway, so there's my little rant. So, yeah. And as Catherine Gray, I mean, she had the best line ever. Catherine Gray, author of The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober, and of course, many other fabulous novels. You know, her line was, drinking red wine for the health benefits is like eating a Big Mac for the gherkin. Exactly right. Utterly crazy. Just have a grape, have a blueberry, and quit with the, the whole idea that drinking copious amounts of addictive liquid is going to somehow be good for you and be protective against cancer. Total BS. Right, there, that really is the end of my rant. So, a reminder of our dates coming up, because if you haven't had a chance to come and see me yet on one of my dates, I would love to meet more podcast listeners. These are just bookshop events coming up. And, I know it's a school night and all, but come out, you'll have a good time, I promise you. So 19th of November, Rugby at Hunt's Bookshop. And then on the 20th at Milton Keynes Waterstones, 21st at Swansea Waterstones. And then the following week, 26th of November, I'm going to be in Daventry at Suddenly Bookshop. And I'm going to be doing a Sober Curious event, by the way, on the same day. So that's 26th of November. I'm going to be doing a Sober Curious Wellbeing evening at the Sheaf Street Health Store. So that's going to be fun. And then the week after that, 27th of November, Birmingham Waterstones. And then into January, if you want to book ahead, 10th of Jan at the Lights in Andover. You'll find all of those dates on janeyleegrace.com. Click on the thing for the book, or you can go to thesoberclub.com and click on events. And of course, Monday, the 2nd of December, we have our special Sober Club Christmas meetup, but everybody's welcome. Just grab yourself a ticket before they sell out. And that ticket includes, obviously, our live podcast recording, special guest Sam Delaney, author of Sort Your Head Out, Mental Health Without the Bollocks. And we have special guests, and your ticket includes a really cool wellbeing goodie bag. So your goodie bag alone will be worth the ticket price. So come if you can. Be fantastic to see you Monday, 2nd of December at Club Soda in London. And again, if you go to thesoberclub.com and click on events, you'll find all of the info there for all of these gigs that I've mentioned. I love meeting listeners. It's just so great to have that connection and that in-person thing. And I know it's dark and it's wet and it's rainy and it's miserable going out, but you'll it's worth it. Honestly, it's worth it. Come and meet some like-minded people. It's a really cool thing to do if you're in the UK, of course. And just a quick heads up for those of you who are interested, I totally get this isn't for everyone, but if you have ditched the booze and you are thinking, I want to change something in my life, or I want to give back, or I want to inspire others, then we've got a free webinar on Tuesday, the 3rd of December. So that's the night after our in-person meetup. And this is online, and it's just a free online session talking about from sobriety to purpose. So exploring a career as a sober coach. And you're very welcome to join. You do have to register, but it's free of charge, and it's not a salesy thing. I am absolutely not going to try and sell you anything. It's just an opportunity to talk about how you might want to turn your sobriety to purpose. It's really that. So check it out. Again, you'll find that under events at thesoberclub.com, and just tell anyone that who might be interested in that. It'd be great to have a few people to have that little discussion with. Anyone who's thinking, maybe for the future they want to give something back, they want to inspire other people, or just want to lay the foundations for your own sobriety. You don't have to have any particular level of sobriety under your belt to do this. You may just want to do it for yourself, and there's a real beauty in that, laying some of these foundations for how you feel, because as we know, it's all about so much more than just not drinking. The sobriety piece, the choosing not to drink, that underpins it all. And once we've got that piece from that place, we don't want to self-harm, do we? We don't want to make ourselves miserable. We want to focus on living our best life. And for me, that's about looking at the holistic picture. So that leads me really nicely into my guest this week. I came across Laura Starky's work because I'm a really big fan of looking at different modalities and different approaches to personal growth and well-being. And one of the things that I do on the retreats that I run is something called Yoga Nidra, which is not, in fact, getting your leg around your ear or anything. It's literally the yoga of sleep. It's relaxation, effectively, but it's very powerful, and it helps you just kind of drop back to your body, just drop back into letting your body take it, as it were. So just for a bit, getting, out of your head, but in a healthy way, because I do think that so many of us, particularly in the early days of quitting alcohol, we're so locked to those thoughts because, those thoughts have been controlling us for a long time. And sometimes it's good just to let the body take it. So my guest, Laura, is a somatic expert, and that's her thing. And I love this whole conversation around how we can literally use our body to affect our mind, use our body to support us in our sobriety and in our well-being. So I really hope you're going to enjoy that interview. And just a quick reminder as well, I was telling you all of those dates, and I forgot to mention Family Constellations, which of course I reminded myself when I was talking about dropping into the body, because that's exactly what we do in Constellations. We literally allow the energy to flow through us, and Constellations is such a magical workshop. It really is. And if you can make it, please do. It's Sunday 24th of November in Hertfordshire. You'll need to book your tickets in the next couple of days if you can make that. I'm really hoping it can go ahead. Again, if you go to thesoberclub.com, click on events, you'll find all the information there for Family Constellations. It'd be fantastic to meet you at one of those events. Well, I'm really pleased to discuss this topic. It's the topic of the somatic approach to sobriety, where the word somatic fits in. And we're going to find out all about it and all about what it means with Laura Starky, who is a somatic practitioner and sobriety expert. Welcome, Laura. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Janey. Really looking forward to it.
So what does it mean then? What is a somatic practitioner? What's it all about?
Somatics means of the body. It comes from the word soma meaning the body, and it's become quite a popular modality in recent years. It's an approach to healing that focuses on the body and does what it says on the tin. But in particular, it's our body's role in how it processes emotions, experiences, and trauma. So unlike traditional talk therapy, which is absolutely still got its place, but with traditional talk therapy that primarily addresses like the thoughts and the behaviours, somatics kind of looks at the physical sensations and the patterns that we have in the body, and that that is the stress that we hold on to, and unresolved emotions as well. So by tuning into the sensations in our body, and we do that in a number of ways, we can do that through movement. I mean, my way into somatics was through yoga, for example, but breath work, body awareness exercises. And all of these ways are about how we're releasing tension, how we are reconnecting to, I suppose, that part of us, so we can restore balance, and then we can kind of be with ourselves on a deeper level, really. So it's a way of getting out of the head, really.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Tapping
in a safe way. Yeah,
totally. And the body holds so much wisdom. And, for those that might be interested, I mean, the book really that certainly popularised somatic practices and approaches was the book called The Body Keeps the Score by Vessel Valderkirk. A really good book, and I'd encourage anybody to start there as a read. But yeah, I hope that kind of explains a body-centered approach, really, very much so. And it complements, the talking therapy approach. And certainly in somatic therapy, there is a combination of the two, but it is understanding that we feel feelings in the body. We don't feel feelings up in our head, and feelings are there to be felt, and we need to get in touch with our bodies to be able to do that.
It's a really good explanation, and this for me is so powerful. You will have heard me speak before about Family Constellations, which was probably my first experience of understanding the somatic approach, if you like, because when you stand in a Constellations workshop and you literally feel energy of something that you couldn't have thought, it's not possible for you to have had those thoughts, but you experience it in your body. And it's only in recent years that I've really realized, since starting coaching, the importance of being able to understand the body and use the body to, as you say, to sort of feel those emotions. Because I'm sure we'll get into all of this, but it really helped me realize that when I was drinking, I found it very difficult to meditate, for example, because it was all the thoughts that were coming in. It was constantly focused on my thoughts and whether I thought I was authentic and all of that stuff. When I actually just let go of that and was able to just drop into the body, particularly after I'd quit the booze, it made such a difference. But tell me about your background. So before you even got into the whole sobriety piece, what were you doing sort of, years ago? Tell us a bit about your background.
Well, the interesting thing was that I was in social work, and for the last 24 years of that's been in substance misuse services, and latterly now mental health. So it's not lost on me, the irony that for the majority of my professional life, I had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol whilst working in a substance misuse service.
Wow, isn't that interesting? Yeah, I suppose that the perception was that those people were at rock bottom, but you were okay. Was it that?
Well, I worked in a young people service for the majority, so we did a lot of family work, work with the individual, young people. But I don't think I saw a lot of trauma and a lot of abuse, but I thought it was quite interesting where I am now in my journey to look back at how I'd compartmentalised mine all off. I almost put it away in a box. And I think, what kept it in that box for so many years was my drinking. To keeping it numbed and keeping it, and in some respects, it allowed me to go out into the world and do what I did, because to all intents and purposes, to anybody looking from the outside, they probably saw quite a successful person, somebody that looked like, they were doing okay. And I was at times, but it was the stress. It was the relentlessness that I pushed myself, the perfectionism, the constant burnout cycles that I used to go through, which I suppose in some respects, what I've come to understand now is from having a dysregulated nervous system, which, is a part of my history, because my history, obviously, not obviously to anybody listening, but, I experienced childhood abuse and trauma growing up. And I, went through a period when I was 27 where I, went into therapy after being in a mental health unit, actually, for 6 weeks. I had a bit of a breakdown around that time. The drinking was increasing around that time. And I did a lot of therapy, did a lot of inner child work. And I think I thought I'd done that, packed it all away, and kind of carried on with my life. But it's only since removing the alcohol, in my early 50s, that has kind of taken me on this whole new healing journey. Which has led me into the somatic world, which has just felt like, something on a completely different level to what I've ever, experienced in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes so much sense. And I think people will really resonate with that. I mean, I think I was similar in the sense that I figured if you'd asked me, I probably would have said, "Oh, I've done hypnotherapy and counselling and all of that stuff. I've dealt with all my baggage. That's all good." And yet, of course, I couldn't sit still in meditation. So I wasn't authentic. And it's only when you actually ditch the booze and you can start to come back to who you really are, and that's such a interesting way of describing it that, you, of course, that trauma, you were still holding that trauma, but you packed it neatly in a box.
Totally.
Oh
yeah.
God, that's so fascinating.
Yeah. But I do think
sorry,
I was just going to say with an age thing as well. I think as you're coming into, the into the perimenopause years toward, menopause, that age piece, I think does bring some wisdom and does bring that ability to maybe let go of some things that we maybe held on to quite tightly as, when we were younger.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I suppose like a perfect storm, really, in terms of things coming together at one point. But getting sober was the springboard for this just totally different, amazing life period that I'm in right now, and I think that's why I'm sitting here talking to you now, Janey.
I know, and it's you're choosing a new identity, aren't you? You're stepping into a new identity. That's the really exciting thing about it. That's the piece about, ditching the booze that not enough people talk about. People talk, oh, you'll feel better and you'll have, more energy and everything. No, hold on a minute. You're going to be able to step into a whole new identity, the one that you really meant to have, right? It's super exciting. So tell us how it happened for you then. When you finally knew it was time, what did you do?
You mean at the point of quitting?
Yeah, when you decided to quit. What was going on there?
Well, interesting. I mean, they talk about a rock bottom, but I was ill. I'd gone down with COVID, and I was in bed so ghastly ill. Because even in all the times before that, I've been ill. I'd had quite a catastrophic knee injury, ended up in a wheelchair, but that still didn't stop me from drinking. But the COVID actually did. For about 3 days, and at that point it was tough. I mean, I was in withdrawal as well as having COVID, because I was a daily dependent drinker, which had just got worse and worse throughout that lockdown period as well. It kind of really started to spiral at that point. The menopause symptoms as well had caused it to spiral as well, I believe. And I just remember it being almost like a surrender. I didn't know anyone was listening. And I think, I did ask for help, divine help, whether that was the angels or what. I wasn't quite sure. And I wasn't actually believing anybody else other than me could do it. But there was, I'm done, I'm absolutely done. And as I said, it was a surrender. But from that moment, it wasn't embodied. It felt different in my body. It felt a complete shift. And every day from that day forward to this day now, which is coming up to not far off my 1,000 days sober, is just complete gratitude. I've never allowed myself to ever believe that I have deprived myself or given anything up, at all, and there were a lot of first time, going out socializing with people that were drinking, first times on holiday, first times having sex, all of those times, that needed a bit of planning and a bit of thinking about. But it was the same. It's the same with everything. It's a muscle, isn't it? The more that you do it, the more stronger, you do become. And it was just looking at the benefits. And then I happened to just have, I call it a sober awakening. I mean, I had a spiritual awakening when I was 27 after my breakdown, and after I had being in a mental health unit, I felt like I was reborn at that point. And I did dance around with energy and Reiki and things like that at that time. And then I went to university and trained to be a social worker and got stuck in the complete, looking back, just, living in fight or flight, and in that respect, alcohol, it's not something to be ashamed of. And I know many people are of when they lose control of alcohol. It isn't something to be ashamed of when you think about what it is that we're using it for.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a shortcut. It was a way to to help me kind of cope day to day, to keep showing up for my family, for work to a certain degree. And I'm just reminded of, Gabor Mate, who was another great writer in this area. Spoke about underneath addiction. Addiction isn't a choice for people. It isn't a moral failing. It is a response to kind of human suffering, and a lot of that human suffering for me, and I'm sure for many people, is we get caught up into this dysregulation of being in fight or flight to the point where we don't even know we're in fight or flight because we've been in it for so long. It's such a chronic condition. And in some respects that the alcohol kept me going.
Just chipping in there for a moment, there'll be people listening who I'm really glad you raised that, because there will be people listening who are feeling right now, oh my God, I'm so weak-willed, I'm this, I'm that, I feel so ashamed, and there is that level of guilt and shame that you can't stop, or that you've got yourself into that mess, and shame is such a low vibration, isn't it? And as you say, it isn't your fault. And if anyone who's looked at the ACE study, the adverse childhood experiences, I mean, you don't need to score many on that study of 10 questions, and they're relatively innocuous questions. You don't need to score many to be in the huge percentage of people that are likely to have an addiction in later life, right? And alcohol is such an easy one, in inverted commas, because our society supports it. Alcohol is addictive. It's not, there's nothing wrong with us. It's that alcohol is addictive, an addictive toxic substance, but that we're told to drink, that we're made to feel, not as good as if we're not, right? So to take away that guilt and shame is key. So thank you for just pointing that out, but I'll let you carry on.
But now, when we see it as an adaptive response, like that, I think it's really important to say, and we need compassion. We need to, part of that healing to begin, we do need to build that compassion for ourselves, and I think that's where, I found yoga quite by accident. At the point of 2 weeks in before I actually quit, I joined a menopause group, and we were doing some strength training, a bit of HIIT training, that type of thing. And the timing was really good, actually, because when you do take alcohol away, you suddenly got all this time. So 2 nights a week I was bimbling on down to the health centre, and one night they said, oh, we've got a lady to come and do yoga with us. And most of the women, groaned, and I thought, I'm quite open to this, giving this a try. And I cried. There was an emotional release on the mat for me. And as I say now, what I understand, we did quite a bit of hip opening, and, and around our hips, that's where we often hurled quite a lot of our emotions. So I'd had this emotional release on the yoga mat, and then just felt, this is interesting. I just want to do more, learn more about yoga, and that journey, that body-based approach, was again, it was the start of I suppose, where I am now. The first thing I started to notice was how competitive I was with myself on the yoga mat. but why was I being competitive with myself? It was like I used to look across at the room, look at everybody else and compare myself and think, well, I can't do this because I'm not as bendy as her over there, or and then beat myself up about that. So, but I continued, and through I suppose the yoga and the mindfulness, there is a slowing down and there is a slowing down in that process that we really need to start to connect with ourselves, and I suppose that journey inwards to that authentic part of ourselves, because we've built up so many parts of ourselves that block us. And yoga, I didn't know yoga was a healing modality. I really didn't know that. I thought it was just for stretching and bending. Which has now led me to training yoga, and I'm now really, really passionate about not just asana, the physical practice of yoga, but the yoga nidra side, which is another, again, I'd never heard of, a whole, again, another school of yoga, but very much around that meditation side and how important, it is to quieten and slow down, to allow ourselves to, connect with the intuition, the inner voice. And again, that's all part of that somatics piece, learning to trust, and build that relationship, with ourselves, and I do find it really, I do laugh to myself, because all my life I have searched, I have been on a quest. And I think back and I look back in my younger years, I rejected any form of religion. I was, forced to go to Sunday school as a child, but rejected it soon thereafter, as a teenager. Humanism, Quakerism. I did an Alpha course and got baptized after that. I did Buddhism, went to a Buddhist center. You name it, I've searched for it in different places. And it wasn't until removing the alcohol and going on this journey is that I've come to realize that it was within me all along. It wasn't out there, what I was looking for. And I'm really interested in how alcohol played in that whole journey. It was as though, I don't know.
It's fascinating. Just briefly on that, you're absolutely right that the searching for things are exactly the same, and yet it's already within you, and as you quite rightly say, alcohol, I believe, plays a huge part, and I think that it's really difficult to properly connect spiritually, or spiritually perhaps is even too big a word, but I think it's really difficult when you're drinking. That's why I couldn't meditate. I just wasn't authentic. And I really think there's this sort of lack of connection. Alcohol manages to be very, we can dig deep into the origins of the word alcohol, maybe that's a conversation for another day. But I definitely think it gets in the way of our connection to anything spiritual, whatever that is for you. I really think it gets in the way. Which is why it drives me insane when I see these adverts for yoga with wine. Kill me now, right? Ever seen those?
Yeah, but I don't watch the telly these days. I've come to have that, it's like that vibration, isn't it? That energy, and to realize when something affects me. And I was noticing that the TV was affecting me. It was lowering my vibration. And it's not because I'm trying to not be aware, because I'm aware there's awful things happening in the world. And it's not that I'm burying my head about that, but I want to engage with things at a point when I'm ready to engage. It's like being mindful with, your social media. It can really take you to a difficult place. And then this is another big problem that people are facing today, isn't it? If it's not alcohol, I see a lot of young people. I work in a university, and young people are not on the whole drinking. Yes, there are still groups, but there is much more that are not. My son's what is he now, 19, and that alcohol has never played a part in his role in his life like it did in mine. I'm glad to say. But they've got other ways that their minds have been numbed.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
It's different in different places, and I've forgotten where we went from there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were telling us you don't watch the telly, and no, you're right. They're called programs for a reason, because they want us to download it all. Absolutely. Just tell me how you started to think about blending ancient practices, with the kind of modern somatic way. When you did your yoga training, was that something that felt important to you, looking at kind of ancient healing techniques?
It's funny because I think I didn't have any plan for any of this. It's kind of just evolved. Yeah, totally. I mean, there was an interest in Reiki, going back about 25 years ago. And I was quite interested in that kind of the energy side. And I used to self Reiki myself. And I remember being pregnant and Reikiing, the bump and then, when my son was a baby, but I forgot it. It left me. Probably the everyday trying to cope with being a new mum, and I put a lot of pressure on myself to be the perfect parent, like I've done in a lot of areas of my life. I've tried to prove my worth, through what I've tried to do, and finding yoga was I didn't know there was this whole ancient wisdom. I didn't know about the philosophy, and that's unfolded, and it's still unfolding. I'm nowhere near, I don't believe we ever are the finished article, and I've got so much to learn. I really have, but I actually look back, and I don't know. Some of the elements that come through in yoga philosophy, I look at it and think, well, that's called an affirmation. That's been maybe packaged as something else.
Yes, exactly.
Further down. I don't know. I don't know if you've kind of come across that, but going back hundreds and thousands of years, they were talking about affirmations, but they just didn't call it that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, and you mentioned Yoga Nidra as well. That's something that I've been using for a long time. And what I love about Yoga Nidra, which, by the way, you don't have to, put your leg around your neck or anything. It's literally the yoga of sleep, as we call it. Yeah. It's amazing. It really is incredible, and it's really just relaxation. But what's lovely about Yoga Nidra is that the idea of setting the intention first, the sankalpa, is that the word?
Yeah.
Where you set an intention, and that as you say, is that affirmations, is intention, but to focus on that I am, or to focus on what it is you want is so powerful.
Yeah, and when we create the conditions to do that, which is to slow the brainwaves down, so we drop into that slower brainwave, that deeper relaxation where our subconscious can be more influenced. We can work with that. It's and I think with all of that removed, it's just a great relaxation.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody needs more relaxation in their lives. I'm sure chronic stress is a serious problem, so So having something that you can actually do lying down in your bed that doesn't require quite much effort should be appealing to many.
Definitely, absolutely. And then, I know you also, in addition to the yoga, you involve breath work in the work that you do, what you call, embodiment. So, I mean, talk us through some of the other sort of aspects of the work that when we talk about the somatic piece, what else does it involve for you?
Well, it's very holistic, integrative. Part of the school who I'm training with, we use, which I think is quite similar to family constellations, potentially, internal family systems. Richard Schwartz. So we work with that. We work with emotional freedom technique, or thought field therapy, which is another version of tapping. And then EMDR, so bilateral stimulation. So when it comes to when somebody's ready to do any form of trauma processing, and that is not something we just jump into straight away. People need to be resourced. People need to be able to spend a period of time cultivating that ability to be able to come in and out of being able to touch on, a feeling and emotion, but then to be able to contain that enough to put it away. So, so there's quite a bit of preparation work before we get into trauma processing. And that is like a somatic EMDR approach. So we are using the mind, but we also, part of that is we are dropping into where we are feeling that in the body. What is the body kind of bringing to our attention? What is it calling us to notice? And it's a very intuitive system. As the further I go into it, the deeper I get into it. I'm still training. It's still very much it's all a journey, but this part of the journey for me, does that kind of
no, it does, and I'm guessing that you see people who, rather like you said, for you it was a sober awakening, as you called it, but I'm guessing you see people that really seem to find a huge relief from this, because it doesn't have to take long, does it, to feel this sense of this sense of, hold on a minute, I'm in this space. I suppose just even knowing that you're being held, as it were, without any judgment is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Holding space for people, because we're not very good, are we, in society, of having people express their feelings and emotions.
No, we're not very good at handling emotions generally, are we?
No. And I think that is, for me, one of the defining factors for, I removed alcohol, but I was a vapor. I was a smoker for many years. I quit when my son was very small, but then I started vaping, some years ago. But once I'd removed the alcohol, I realised that actually it was sugar came for a little bit. Shopping became quite an issue, and then I realised the role that vaping was having. It was the impulses were coming up. These emotional impulses were coming up. These compulsions, these patterns. And it wasn't until I removed the vaping that I suppose, really dove deep into this healing journey, because I'd kind of stripped everything away, that I'd used really as a way to avoid feeling. And I think that's at the crutches of what a lot of life is about. We get ourselves into so much difficulty avoiding the feeling, if we just, when we get to that place where we know we're okay, and we can sit with, I think it's Sharon Salzberg talks about when we see our feelings as visitors that come to the door, they knock. And what we need to do is open the door and let them in, shake their hand, and then they leave. They are like visitors.
Yeah.
But we spend years, barricading the door,
Yeah,
running away
exactly.
from the door, putting our fingers in our ears, just the messes that we get ourselves into because of that fear of what that is going to feel like, and that the basis of this somatic journey is that you build that foundation of being able to create that calm and safety, and that's a safety, it's an embodied feeling within the body.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there are times when I still reach salted peanuts. I'm a thing at the moment. I'm still, I'm still, got a long way to go. I'm sure I have.
Yeah. I mean, we're adults,
You
aren't we? We sort of seek pleasure. We want pleasure quickly.
know,
It's a case of being able to find a healthy version, for ourselves. But it's interesting what you say. And I did a podcast with Carla McLaren some time ago, and that was just amazing because she's sort of queen of the idea of the language of emotions, and that all emotions are welcome. She say, open the door, let them in, because they're all welcome. And we don't feel that way, do we? Because none of us want to welcome in, sadness or guilt or anger. We don't like those emotions. They're really uncomfortable. But if only we could, and God, how I wish we could just be taught this at a young age. We could be supported in this as kids, to be able to accept our emotions, just sit with the emotions, they'll pass, rather than just, oh, you're upset, have a sweet, which is what we do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh dear, you're upset. Oh, don't be upset, have a sweet. Right, okay.
Yeah.
We'll push that one down then and just focus on the sweet.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really true. What was I going to ask you? There's something else I was going to ask you. I've forgotten what it was. So the other really amazing aspect of somatic work for me is remembering that sometimes you just have to, whatever's going on, you can just use the body to help you process it. And that doesn't even have to be, a formal yoga session or anything formal. You can literally just shake it out or dance wildly. And the effect is incredible for releasing tension. You're fully aware of TRE, trauma release exercises, but at their most basic, you can just shake it out, right? Would you agree?
Totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's what animals do.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. They shake to release the trauma. Exactly
Yeah,
that. And
totally.
I noticed somebody was in my community recently who had suffered terrible grief and shock, tremendous grief and shock, and the expression that she used was, I feel numb. I feel as though I'm not in my body. She actually used a phrase like that, and I thought, wow, that's such a powerful way of describing what trauma and shock can feel like. And that's where we have to consciously bring ourselves back to our body, let the body kind of take it, isn't it? Because you can be floating around in your head trying to process terrible things as long as you like, but actually just drop back into the body, let the body do it.
Yeah. And the mind thinks it'll find a solution for us, but the mind will never solve it for us.
Yeah.
It's just where we get stuck on loops, don't we? There's thinking mind loops.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
And a lot of the somatic practices are so simple. They really are, almost to the point where my ego sometimes goes, this can't work, it's too simple.
Yeah.
It's like,
exactly. What would your tips be then? Share a few tips for anyone who's sort of brand new to any of this, and they've not really thought about this before, but maybe they're at relatively early days ditching the booze. What simple tips can everyone get started with?
I mean, yoga nidra is a great place to start because it is a way of building a practice of part meditation, but you're being guided as well.
Yeah.
So that's easier than self-guided meditation.
Yeah.
But you are going into and building a practice of being able to notice sensation and, body awareness, body scanning. I mean, one of my practices every day is something that we were taught through. So I'm doing my training with the International School of Holistic Healing, and one of the practices is a stretch, a shake, and a sigh, which is just as it says on the tin.
A shake and a what?
A stretch, a shake, and a sigh.
Oh, okay, great.
And it's that opening the jaw, release, let the sigh out. We do that. Singing, chanting, all of these things are so good. I got into wild water swimming. I swim in the North Sea. Unbeknownst to me, again, another really great thing for a dysregulated nervous system. It's really good for bringing that vagal turn, helping with the vagus nerve, the vagal turn. So a kind of a simple practice of a stretch. So in the morning, for those that maybe don't know yoga, but those that do, just a couple of rounds of sun salutations, but you could just literally stretch,
Yeah.
Imagine that you're a cat stretching the arms up.
Yeah, or a downward dog.
Downward dog.
Which is exactly what dogs actually do. I love watching dogs do that.
Yeah, total. And then giving yourself a really good shake, just allowing everything to shake, not your head, but and to do it to music as well is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a really good way to start the day. And then if you really don't feel that singing or chanting is for you, then just, releasing the breath, which is just a really, a nice deep breath in through the nose, and then a deep sigh, just to release, and just noticing that you're dropping your shoulders down from your ears, and just repeating that. That's a simple way to start the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it certainly beats getting out of bed and scrolling through your phone, doesn't it? It just brings you back to balance, brings you back to where you are, to your body. Fantastic. Yeah. So, Laura, do you want to give us your website and tell us what you offer?
Yeah, so I am providing one-to-one sober coaching somatic practices. I have a website, the Somatic Wellness Hub, which I'm sure you'll put the details in the show notes. I was going to say I am, just about to launch a Facebook community group. My aim is to launch that on the 24th of November, which is actually my 1,000 days sober anniversary. I'm wanting to kind of create a space where we can talk more about nervous system regulation and co-regulation, and for those that are sober curious or maybe sober, but maybe looking feel that that's something still missing.
Yeah.
On their journey. And as
fantastic.
Part of, I was just going to say, when you do join the Facebook group, the Sober Soul Rising, there is a freebie in there, which is actually my magic morning routine, which has got a little bit of everything in there. To help people kind of get started with a magic morning routine, which I totally believe how we start our day really does set the tone for the rest of the day. Yeah. And it only needs to take a few minutes.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need 20 minutes of meditation morning and night. If you're busy, then just a few minutes really can make a difference. Yeah, really is that. Anything really is better than nothing.
Total.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate it. Fascinating chat, and lots of luck with everything you do in the future. I really appreciate you chatting to us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks, Janey.
we'll put those notes, the info in the show notes. And I know you've got a little free PDF as well that people can download. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us and sharing some of those tips. Really appreciate it. Don't forget those dates. Hope to see some of you soon. Maybe next week on one of the dates. Go to thesoberclub.com, click on events, and follow me on social media at Janey Lee Grace. And if the Sober Club is not for you, of course I'd love it if you were to join us in the Sober Club. It's amazing value. It's full of amazing stuff. It's a really great resource. We will cheerlead you. We will support you, whatever stage you're at. But if that's not for you, that's okay. It doesn't matter, but do something. Reach out to someone. If you're doing this, tell someone. Don't just hole up with your thoughts, because we know where that one will go. Tell someone. You can tell me. You can absolutely reach out to me at Janey Lee Grace, and I will reply to as many people as I possibly. I always reply. If I get the message, I will reply to you. I'll hold the space for you. I'll hold that vision. Hold you accountable. You can do this, you really can, but you do need to be connected. You do need to tell someone. You do need to share what's going on. It gives you that another little layer of accountability. And now is a fantastic time to quit alcohol. Don't get into that thing of, oh, well, we're not far off Christmas and the Christmas parties are going to start. Yeah, they are. And why would you want to waste another second of your fabulous life? Why not level it up right now and, decide to quit for 3 months? Hey, there's a challenge to you. Take it right through till the end of Jan. There's my challenge to you this week. Let me know if you're going to take it up. See you next time. Thank you for listening to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by the Sober Club. Please rate and review. And if you want support, accountability and inspiration, and you want to live your best life without the booze, check out thesoberclub.com.